when I realized the extent of my mental illness and started recognizing it as a legitimate disability, I had to grieve the able version of me that I truly thought I could be someday. Hello, friends, and welcome back to another episode of Pickles and Vodka, the mental health podcast where imperfect people have imperfect conversations. I'm Christina, one of your co-hosts. The other co-host, Lauren, is currently in treatment, so for the next few weeks or whatever, it'll just be me and whoever else feels like joining forces to reach the masses. Speaking of reinforcements, I want to give one more huge thank you to my guest from last week. His name's Andrew. If y'all haven't heard that episode, it's number 125. It's absolutely incredible. I've had a few people who were in treatment with us in 2021 reach out to say that they listened, and it just brought them back to that time. And messages like that just mean so much to me. I've said it before. Making this podcast can sometimes feel like shouting into a void. And I know that I normalize all the stuff I've been through, but sometimes I just have to remind myself, like, what a fucking ride. Like, think of all the people that you've met just by being traumatized, to put it lightly. I mean, some of the most traumatic periods of my life have also been the times where I've met the realest people, and obviously Andrew's one of them. I have another treatment friend that wants to be on the podcast. Hopefully I'll be connecting with her later this week. Speaking of treatment, look at me going through these segues today. I actually have an update from Lauren. It's not a fresh update because I got it last week. Actually, I'm recording this on Saturday, so I got it 6 days ago. But I thought I would play it now for y'all before I do anything else, because it's been a while since you've heard her voice. So without further ado, here is Lauren Update Corner.
Hey, so it is the end of week 1, and I don't know what I think. For some reason, seems harder this time than other times, or maybe I just don't remember because it's been a while. I am really, really, really hoping, well, I don't know if hoping's the right word, really wanting to leave. What I'm hoping is that I can work out some sort of thing to start PHP earlier than, maybe I would have, or maybe would have been recommended. But I mean, I would be more willing to stay in the program if I could do that sooner, because that would be easier to take. So I don't know if we can work out some kind of deal. That would be great. I don't know, not much else going on. It's a weekend. Weekends are slow. Kind of boring. Everyone here is pretty cool though, so that's good. And what else? Oh, I can't sleep for shit. What a surprise. Yeah, so I guess I'm gonna end this, and I'm gonna get off this stone wall I'm sitting on, because earlier today we saw like a little lizard crawling up it, and I mean, that's not awesome. I was watching him and I'm like, he's so cute, but I don't want a lizard to crawl up my butt. So that's all. Enjoy.
All right, so that is Lauren. I will say that after sending me that on the 7th last week, she did say that she was going to wait until the 16th to make a decision. She's working some stuff out. And if you've ever been in treatment, you know how it is. Your feelings change sometimes on a daily basis. It's quite exhausting. Like, I remember when I got admitted in 2021, I felt like I'd made the biggest mistake of my life, and that I was going to waste my own money and the money of everyone who had helped me get in. And it was a lot of guilt and uncertainty. And I know that Lauren is dealing with those feelings and many more right now. And I'm just so proud that she's there and that she's trying something. I mean, at the end of the day, all you can do is try to use the resources that are available to you and see where the cards fall, and then maybe try again tomorrow if it doesn't work today. I'm in a little bit of a weird mood right now. It's 10:03 p.m. I have procrastinated making this episode all fucking day. But hey, I'm sitting here and I'm recording. That's an improvement. After Lauren went to treatment, I didn't record for a few weeks. And I'm still experiencing a lot of the same feelings of stagnation and doubt. My mom's calling me. Hello?
Oh, were you able to get all that lint off?
No, actually, I'm recording the podcast right now, actually.
Oh, okay. I thought you might be bored because Brett's gone. Okay, you do your thing, honey.
Wait, is there anything you want to say to the listeners?
Oh, to the listeners? Well, yes, there is.
Oh, okay. I wasn't expecting you to be so prepared.
Well, I'm always prepared.
What do you want to say to them?
Well, I love Pickles and Vodka podcast and those who lead, the fearless Christina and Lauren. And I would just say that continue to never give up and know that you are so valuable. That's what I would say.
Oh, thank you. I was literally just talking about how Lauren sent me a voicemail about wanting to leave treatment, and I was talking about how, like, I respect her so much for just being there and doing the work even though she wants to leave. And you are worth it.
Yeah, totally. And you speak from experience. So, well, I'll let you go. Okay, I'll see you tomorrow.
All right. I love you so much. I'll talk to you tomorrow.
Me too.
Bye.
Bye.
And that was the one and only Ginger Lou coming in live. I did my laundry at her house earlier today, and oh my God, I'm about to tell another fucking cat story. Ruby messed up one of our rugs again, and so we went to my parents' house to wash it. We washed the rug with our fitted sheet because, why waste water when you can wash two in one load, But what happened is all the stains came out of the rug. Great. But now there's a ton of lint all over our bed linens and we can't get them out. So we went home and we just got out these little lint rollers and we were just rolling it over the entire queen size bed trying to get this lint out. Anyway, that's a peek inside the glamorous life of one of your co-hosts. Anyway, I hope Lauren is having a little more glamorous time right now. Can't wait to hear the stories when she gets back. What was I even talking about before we were graced with my mother's presence? I mean, I guess that this is just as good of a place as any to jump into what I wanted to talk about today. A listener sent in a voicemail that I want to play that sparked this whole discussion. But before I do that, I want to give y'all a little bit of an update. As I mentioned in prior episodes, I have started therapy again after going, I want to say, 2 years without. Backstory, I moved to Virginia after getting out of treatment in Seattle. Within the span of 5 months, I lost the job that I moved here for, and I lost the health insurance that I got through that job. And so that was a huge unexpected blow, and I've talked about it a lot. I won't talk about it again, but since then, I went off my meds cold turkey and I quit therapy and all that stuff. It kind of put a screeching halt to my plan to improve myself when I moved here. And I don't really deal with changes like that very well. Instead of pouring all my energy into finding alternative methods to take care of myself, I just kind of shut down and focused on surviving, which is natural because when you grow up in a chaotic environment, that's kind of what you're amazing at. Like I'm great at surviving, but that's not what I want long term. Not that there's anything wrong with just surviving, but I want more. And so this week I had my second session with this therapist. I found her through the Open Path Psychotherapy Collective, which is a nonprofit that provides affordable in-office and online psychotherapy sessions between $40 and $70 if you pay for a membership, which is one time and $65. Not a sponsor. I just thought I would mention that because God knows that more of us need options for therapy. Anyway, it took me a few weeks to get in the system and get scheduled, but I fucking did the thing. And I've honestly kind of been dreading talking about it on the podcast because, to be completely honest, all I did was cry. I sat down on the couch and I've been preparing for this moment for a while. I have a fucking mental health podcast. I talk about this stuff all the time. And I've also had a lot of therapists. I've been in treatment. I know the terms that they use. I know how to formulate my backstory in a way that is concise and makes sense and highlights all the parts I think they want to know about. I'm good at telling my story, But when it came to talk to her, I literally couldn't get any of it out. I was trying to explain to her like the reasons why I was there. And I just started crying and I couldn't stop. And that happened the first session. And then it happened the second session too. And obviously it needed to happen. Obviously there was a lot of emotion that I was holding back. Like, who knows how long I had been feeling like I couldn't let that out. But it took me by surprise. And at the core of it, I think, is just this feeling of exhaustion, sure, for covering up these feelings for so long and trying to pretend that everything's okay, but also frustration for not being able to articulate the things that I have been planning to articulate for years, the things that I talk about on the podcast almost every week. It's very hard for me not to be able to get my point across, not to be able to be taken seriously, which when I break down crying on my new therapist's couch while I'm trying to tell her why I'm there, it feels like in that moment I'm not taking myself seriously. And so I don't think anyone else is taking me seriously. Obviously, I'm still trying to cultivate some self-compassion there. I'm trying to recognize that this has been a long time coming and it's hard. It's just hard. No matter how many times I've been in therapy, every time it's hard. And this time is different than all the other times. So I'm still processing that. I'm still dealing with a possible ADHD diagnosis. She really helped me understand some of the reasons why my brain works the way it does if I do have ADHD, which I'll share later. But the thing that I wanted to talk about today is sadness. I feel really fucking sad all the time, not only at the state of the world right now, which is just a nightmare, but sadness that things aren't changing for me in my brain. Sadness that despite improving my life, because I have improved my life a ton over the last 2 years, but despite going through the motions, I still feel empty. I still feel lost. The closer I get to being normal, quote unquote, the more miserable I am. And I've had to seriously ask myself, am I cut out for this? Like, not life in general, although I've asked myself that too, but society. Like, am I cut out to live in this brutal capitalistic society that seems bent on sucking the soul out of everyone that is forced to exist in it? And obviously that's really heavy stuff. So that brings me to this voicemail from our listener, Orion. He has sent us stuff before. He's an incredible person. A few weeks ago when Lauren first went to treatment, I had requested topics to cover on the podcast. And Orion sent this voicemail on Instagram that I've been thinking about for a few weeks now. I didn't release it right away because I really wanted to give it the thought that it deserved. And I wanted to wait for a good time to share it. And this week feels like a good time. So I'm not even going to tell you what it's about. I'm just going to play it and then we'll talk about it.
Hi, I wanted to record a voicemail for you. I've been writing in my diary a lot this week. Something I was writing about last night was feelings and emotions that I avoid completely and that I don't even realize that I'm doing it. Namely, like the emotion of sadness. I really reject and suppress anything that makes me feel sadness. So I just sat down and wrote out a list of things that make me feel sad. And it was really hard to do because I avoid these things on instinct, like animal cruelty and systemic injustice and the torture that we inflict on most living beings on this earth, and the way that we treat the earth and the way we treat the people on the earth. Systemic injustice is very difficult to think about because it makes us angry, but it makes us sad because we are part of it. We feel very helpless. And what makes me sad is the feeling of helplessness in many states. Interacting with the homeless in this city and seeing friends and everybody in poverty is very difficult. It makes me very sad because it could be better, and it's not. I'm one of the lucky ones for whom poverty isn't a death sentence, but I can't fix other people's poverty because that's not within my power, and that makes me very sad. I feel sad when I see people speaking without understanding what they're talking about, or that they just don't care about understanding. I feel sad when I see people online posting things that are hateful and hurtful and ununderstanding and unfeeling, especially people I know. I don't like to go on the internet. The internet makes me feel sad a lot. It makes me sad to think about all of the things that I'm likely not going to do because I have like an apathy for my own happiness. I'm not going to parties. I'm not really going to concerts as much as I could, or eating out at restaurants, or going shopping, or doing all of these quote-unquote fun things that other people feel joy in. I'd like to be the kind of person who does exciting things, and I don't feel like doing it. And maybe I'm depriving myself of some kind of happiness. There's that bit of discontent there that makes me wish I was the kind of person who wanted to do those things. And I'm not sad I'm not doing them because I don't want to. I wish I had the longing to take a big vacation and, go traveling and hang out with new people and strangers and go on adventures. But I am tired and I'm sad I have to work so hard not to fall apart. I'm sad that I'm not as vibrant as I see some people being in the world. I feel sad when I feel like my friends have forgotten me because I am so overwhelmed by life that, I can only text one different person every day of the week. I can't be everything to everyone all at once. I'm sad I can't do everything all at once. I'm sad that I have regrets in my past. I'm sad about the way I lived my life in the past and the things that have held me back. I feel immensely sad that I'm undereducated from homeschooling and that I'm socially undeveloped from church and that I'm repressed from all this mental illness and all of the mistreatment I've done to myself. I have things to be proud of, but I'm so sad. I could have had so much more happiness, maybe. I don't know. It's sad that I'll never know, and I don't know how I'm going to look back on this time of my life in the future. I'm sad that I'm letting a lot of the days pass me by and I'm not fully experiencing the emotions that I could. I'm sad I can't feel my sadness. I'm sad that I can't cry very easily. I wish my brain felt safe to cry. I wish my brain felt safe to sit in difficult feelings instead of avoiding them.
Okay, so there's a little bit more of the voicemail to go, but I wanted to stop it there and talk about this because in many ways, this is what I have been struggling to articulate in therapy this week. Just the sadness of knowing that everything is fucked up, but being helpless to do anything about it. And on top of that, feeling like your brain is trying to do everything it can to prevent you from trying to be happy. And not just your brain, but maybe like Orion, you have had a traumatic past that is still preventing you from living the best type of life that you want. And the reality is we can't help that we were traumatized. Like we can't really do anything about the things that have happened in the past. All we can do is change moving forward. We know this, but it's a lot easier said than done, especially when your brain is your enemy or feels like your enemy. Now, the things that Orion mentions at the beginning of his list of things that make him sad: systemic injustice, animal cruelty, the fact that living on this earth is torture in many ways, and also the sadness that comes with being privileged enough to say, yeah, I'm one of the lucky ones, but that's not to diminish your own struggle, Orion. And in many ways, when we are able to see the true nature of things and recognize that everything is fucked up, that brings on a special kind of sadness in and of itself. That helplessness that you describe is so relevant, and it's a very lonely place to be because, like you were saying also, not everyone knows what they're talking about. Not everyone is aware of these things. And when you are aware of them and you are helpless to do anything, it sucks. It's really fucking sad, to put it lightly. So I really want to talk about the internet for a second. I wrote down in my notes, internet equals sadness factory. And it's true. When you look on the internet, I mean, this is not a hot take by any means, but all you see are the highlights. When you were describing wanting to be a more exciting person or do more things and talk to more people, I furiously relate. I don't know if that's the right word, but that's all I feel all the time. I feel a constant sense of FOMO. And sure, maybe that has to do with my possible ADHD. You know, it's a lot easier to think about doing things and plan things than to actually do them when you do struggle with mental illness or mental issues of any kind. I was talking to my partner the other day, and he was saying that when you plan the activities, that in and of itself is a dopamine hit. And it's a dopamine hit that requires not a lot of effort. And so I do a lot of planning and dreaming and plotting and hoping for all these adventures and exciting things to come into my life. And then when they don't happen, or they happen and they're not as cathartic as I imagined, like, because that's the thing with depression too. When you do these things, you just don't find joy in them. I feel empty a lot of the time, like I was saying. And it's very hard for me to find joy in the things that I used to. And sometimes that comes out in the podcast, not gonna lie. But I have a point to make, I promise. That term, that concept that you touched on, Orion, of being apathetic towards your own happiness, I feel a lot of compassion for you. And on one hand, you know, you're talking about feeling sad because you're missing out on all this stuff and you're not living the life you thought you would live. And sure, that has to do with your situation. Like I said, we can't help the trauma that we're born into. We can't help the things that happen to us. And it's easy to get angry at however the system may have let you down, or the people may have let you down, or what have you, or yourself. Like you were talking about regretting things. I regret a lot of things that I have done to myself. Like it would be easy to blame all my problems on my own religious upbringing, but that happened so long ago, and I've processed it to death. And you know, a lot of the pain and a lot of the setbacks that I've experienced are due to me, and I have to own that. But with that said, I think we really need to give ourselves more self-compassion, more grace. I mean, you said it yourself. You're working so hard not to fall apart. And that is a full-time job, my friend. It's an invisible struggle, but it is a struggle that truly takes everything in you some days, if not most days. And then add to that, trying to be everything to everyone all the time, like you said, and trying to do all the things at once, if you're like me. I mean, no wonder you're so exhausted and sad that you can't do more. But like, you look at yourself, like you're already pushing your limits. It might not be possible to do the things that you want to do right now when you're just trying to survive. And maybe we're sad because we think that we're supposed to be able to do this. I mean, for me, when I realized the extent of my mental illness and started recognizing it as a legitimate disability, I had to grieve the able version of me that I truly thought I could be someday. Because now I realize, like, I'm never going to be that person. I'm always going to be mentally ill. And sure, maybe someday I'll get on meds and be able to regulate my whatever. And I do believe I can feel happiness. I mean, I've felt happiness in the past. And yeah, this is a really hard time to be happy. In a way, being happy kind of feels like a betrayal. I mean, I forget if I mentioned it before, but when I do break down on my therapist's couch and cry, I feel like I am returning to my authentic self, which is someone who's always been sad. I mean, my mom used to call me Eeyore as a kid. I've had a resting bitch face since I was 3 years old. I have photographic proof. I've always been a melancholy person. And now I recognize, sure, some of it's just depression, but I feel things so deeply, and that's a strength, but it's also a huge weakness sometimes. At least it feels like it, because sometimes I don't want to feel things so deeply. I talked with Andrew last week about numbing ourselves with substances to prevent ourselves from feeling the sadness. And Orion, I think you can relate to that. I think we all can to some extent. No one wants to feel sadness. It's a feeling that we do reject. It's instinctual to reject it. But the thing is, we all get sad. Even if you don't have any diagnosed mental illnesses, everyone gets fucking sad. And it's something we need to feel. A couple nights ago, I sent Orion a voicemail back telling him that I was about to go roller skating and that I had been thinking about sadness a lot since getting his voicemail, and that I was going to play the saddest music I could and just feel my sadness while I skated. And it was cathartic as fuck. Honestly, it felt really healing. And it was only for like 30 minutes or so. Then I had an asthma attack and had to go home. But it was beautiful. And I had been avoiding that for so long. I had been avoiding even playing sad music because I didn't want to let myself slip. Because I feel like I've been on the verge of this for so long, of just melting down. And it feels like a very fragile place to be. So anything can set me off. Like back in December, I had a really severe depressive phase that lasted several months. And I don't want to go back there. And sad music just feels kind of like a gateway drug, you know what I mean? But I did it. And I don't feel the urge to spiral like I have in the past. I just feel kind of at peace with the sadness, just trying to see where it leads me. And I hope it'll lead to a place of healing. But it's hard. Anyway, Orion has some more great things to say. So here's the rest of his voicemail.
I'm going to figure it out. Like, I'm not doing anything wrong, but I'm trying to change because I'm pursuing a better future self. Not from self-hatred, but just because I want to be better. I'm tired of looking in my past and not liking what I see there. I want to look in my future. I want to go beyond the comfort to feel the fullness of life. I don't want to passively endure what's going on now. I want to have the patience to look and trust the end result of a process. I know that life shrinks or grows in accordance with my courage, and that the act of courage matters regardless of the result. Courage matters. Your moment of patience matters. Your sadness matters. And not because these are things that need to be fixed, but it's just okay to sit with them. It's okay to feel sad. You need to feel sadness. There's a lot of things to be sad about in this world, and you can't just not feel them. It has to be processed through us so that we can live our lives in this sad, sad world and know that we are not alone in these feelings, and that we can survive them and we can alchemize them into something helpful and wonderful. If I didn't feel sadness at injustice, then I would just feel apathy. If I didn't feel FOMO, I would never do anything, maybe. I would never figure out what I like and what I don't like. If I don't fully experience sadness, and if I can't engage with the things that make me sad, then I can't feel real joy and connection. What are some things that make you sad? I want to hear people talk about things that make them sad more. When people share that with me, it is comforting. And I want to say it's been really comforting to hear people speak on this show and on many like it. And either privately or in connection with somebody, it matters that you feel your feelings. It's not for no reason. It's not just suffering, but there is a reason that we feel sad, that we feel angry, we feel alone, and that those reasons are worth talking about and thinking about. And it's okay for your minds to go there, because as much as our brains feel like our enemies sometimes, they are our safe place. And there's places of safety in the world for us all. And I love you all, I guess. Okay.
Yes, we love you too, Orion. No, but in all seriousness, thank you so much for this voicemail. If any of y'all want to send me a voicemail while Lauren's away to kind of help me out with the show, that would be amazing. Maybe try to keep it 5 minutes or under, although I do edit for time. But back to the point of what he just said, it's funny that you'd say your brain is your safe place, because I think for me and a lot of listeners, it has not felt like a safe place for maybe our whole lives. And I think it's a really helpful exercise to reframe your brain, not as your enemy, but as the place where you can really be yourself and where no one can judge you. Well, except for yourself, but that's a whole other podcast episode. At the end of the day, it takes a lot of courage to live with your brain and to live in the world. And it might feel like it's pointless, but like Orion was saying, it's really not. Courage matters. For me, just living through the things that I've lived through and not fixing things, but working on fixing things and proving to myself that I can stick to something, that gives me courage to keep doing it. Looking within myself and realizing that I am really capable, and that I can survive these feelings of sadness because I've survived them before. I mean, what he was saying about sadness being alchemized into something helpful and wonderful, I thought that was so beautiful, because if you think about it, without the sadness, it would prevent us from making connections. I mean, humans are sad beings. We are going to feel sad. And I think it's natural to seek out others who are also feeling sad, just to feel less alone. And also, to prove that maybe if they got through it, I can get through it. I think it's a beautiful thing. And it also brings me a lot of comfort to hear other people talk about this. It is really easy to silence yourself when you look around and you see so many terrible things happening, maybe to you, maybe to other people, and you say to yourself, my sadness can't possibly matter right now. But it does matter. It matters so much, because when we suppress our own sadness, we suppress the side of ourselves that is angry at all the injustice and wants to do something and wants to seek out others who feel the same way. If you haven't listened to the movie review that we did a few weeks ago about Inside Out, that movie is a great example of how your sadness can not only help you, but you can't move on without your sadness. So thank you so much, Orion, for that voicemail. Listeners, what makes you sad? Tell me, and maybe we can talk about it. I am going to wrap up now because I have a birthday party to get to later today. My youngest sister is 21 today, which is absolutely wild. A lot of us are going to be meeting at the house later to have a quiet family dinner with her. So that's something to look forward to. There's a lot happening, even in our family, that's making a lot of us sad right now. And so I think these times where we can get together and just recognize each other's sadness, but also just not feel the need to fix it. Just sitting in your sadness with other people who are also feeling sadness is really great. I mean, we're also going to have a lot of fun. It's our family. You never know what's going to happen. So until next week, thank you so much for listening. Follow the podcast on @Pickles and Vodka podcast. You can always message me, even if I don't post. Just tell me you're listening. Tell me what you think. Tell me if there's anything you want me to talk about in the coming weeks. Tell me if you want to come on and be a guest. If you have dealt with mental health struggles in the past or are currently dealing with them, I promise your story can help a lot of people. So hit me up and have a wonderful week. Bye.